We, here at Congregational UCC, hope that these upcoming messages of kindness, respect, love, and peace resonates with you. Now, this week's sacred reading and sermon.
Our first scripture reading this morning comes from Genesis chapter 45, verses 3 through 11, 15, and Luke chapter 6, 27 through 38. Joseph said to his brothers, "I'm Joseph. Is my father really still alive?" His brothers couldn't respond because they were terrified before him. Joseph said to his brothers, "Come closer to me." And they moved closer. He said, "I'm your brother Joseph, the one you sold to Egypt. Now don't be upset and don't be angry with yourselves that you sold me here. Actually, God sent me before you to save lives. We've already had 2 years of famine in the land, and there are 5 years left without planting or harvesting. God sent me before you to make sure you'd survive and to rescue your lives in this amazing way. You didn't send me here. It was God who made me a father to Pharaoh, master of his entire household and ruler of the whole land of Egypt. Hurry, go back to your father. Tell him this is what your son Joseph says. God has made me a master of all of Egypt. Come down to me. Don't delay. You may live in the land of Goshen, so you will be near me, your children, your grandchildren, your flocks, your herds, and everyone with you. I will support you there so you, your household, and everyone with you won't starve, since famine will still last 5 years. He kissed all of his brothers and wept, embracing them. After that, his brothers were finally able to talk to him. Our second reading is from Luke chapter 6, verses 27 through 38. Behaving as God's children. But I say to you who are willing to hear, love your enemies. Do good to those who hate you. Bless those who curse you. Pray for those who mistreat you. If someone slaps you on the cheek, offer the other one as well. If someone takes your coat, don't withhold your shirt either. Give to everyone who asks, and don't demand your things back from those who take them. Treat people in the same way that you want them to treat you. If you love those who love you, why should you be commended? Even sinners love those who love them. If you do good to those who do good to you, why should you be commended? Even sinners do that. If you lend to those from whom you expect repayment, why should you be commended? Even sinners lend to sinners, expecting to be paid back in full. Instead, love your enemies, do good, and lend expecting nothing in return. If you do, you will have great reward. You will be acting the way children of the Most High act, for he is kind to ungrateful and wicked people. Be compassionate just as your Father is compassionate. Don't judge, and you won't be judged. Don't condemn, and you won't be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. Give, and it will be given to you. A good portion, packed down, firmly shaken and overflowing, will fall into your lap. The portion you give will determine the portion you receive in return.
I'm going to do something that you know I hate doing, and I'm going to remain up here today. But I had Carol do the heavy lifting this morning, as you can tell, doubled up. So the Old Testament scholar Walter Brueggemann, who I know Connie's group has studied from time to time, has something interesting to say about this passage, where he talks about these 4 abrasive imperatives: to love, to do good, to bless and pray for the enemies who harm us. And we may find them impossible. We may consider them unfair, unjust, maybe even unhealthy. And yet, rather than struggle with them as imperatives, we might embrace them as promise. After all, How well is the world of rigid reciprocity really working out for us now? And you'll see in the bulletin, I put a quote from Mother Teresa that says, "If we have no peace, it is because we have forgotten that we belong to each other." So we talk a lot, nearly every Sunday, about the pain that the world is seeing right now, the hunger the world is seeing, the violence the world is seeing, the anger, the divisiveness. And we come together each week to try and find a way to counter that, right? And in Carol's readings this morning, you hear story after story about, if you get hit in the cheek, give them the other one. That's easier said than done, right? That is easier said than done. And if someone does wrong to you, forgive them. That's easier said than done too, isn't it? So, what can we do then? Is it really that easy to forgive? Even in our own families, our own churches, our own schools, our own workplaces, you think about on a lesser scale than these global problems, but you have divisiveness, you have anger, you have hurt feelings. So how do you deal with that? How do you forgive? And is that always the most healthy option to you?
I think you have to, it's in your mind. I think you have to get over the hurt. And I have 4 wonderful sisters, and one of them I'm on the outs with, which, But at first I was upset that such a trivial thing, I was at hurt. But then you have to kind of think back a little bit about, put yourself in the other person's place. And then, like you said and she read, was you have to get over your own inner anger and say, how important is it that I hold a grudge or stay upset? You do that, then it becomes easy just to get back into the flow.
Thanks, Gary. What else? How else do you feel? Ken?
Thanks to one of Connie's Bible studies that I attended last year, I believe, I learned that forgiving is not necessarily the gift you give to the perpetrator as much more as it is the act of getting the perpetrator out of your head.
Yeah.
So,
And giving that gift back to yourself, or that piece of your life back.
right.
I once worked with a person at the bank I was at prior to where I'm at now, who was the other manager of another team, and she was just toxic. You've had these people in your life or in your workplace where it's almost as though they are a cancer that feeds throughout the organization. And she was taking up a lot of my space, here and here. And I had to decide if I could live with her taking up that space, or if it was easier for me to move on to new things and new pastures. That's the choice I made. And I felt guilty in a way, because I was leaving behind my own team that I managed, who would now partially be managed by her. I still have a little guilt for that. But you have to think, is this really worth it to me to sit and just let this eat at me, whatever it is in your life or in general? What else do you feel? Connie?
That same study was Barbara Crafton, and she was talking about, and you can really understand it, you have that tumor here, that the anger that you feel for whatever, whether it's something you did or that you can't forgive yourself, it becomes a tumor.
Yeah.
And as long as that tumor is in there growing, you don't have any room for love. So you've got to get rid of that tumor so that then you can, and you can't, like Ken said, they're not in your head. They're not paying rent. In other words, they're
Right.
coming into your house and living rent-free, and it's not good.
Right.
So
That's
you
it.
have that choice. You have that choice to not forget it.
Yeah.
You never can forget it because it happened.
Right.
But you choose to let it go, and then you can put something else in that place.
Because isn't that freeing sometimes? Or a lot of times? Isn't that freeing? Just that act of letting go. Just as you just motioned with your hands, to be able to let something go. It makes it better possibly for them and for you. Because oftentimes they're not sitting at home fretting about what they've done, right? Or what's being done in the world. But you are.
I'm a little confused about forgiving because I had a minister one time, whom I had a great deal of respect for, say that you really have not forgiven unless you forget. And there are people I feel like I've forgiven, but I can't always forget what was done to me. And I'd like to hear some other perspectives on that.
Yeah.
Something that resonates with me from time to time. I'm always a little leery if someone has, like you said,
Yeah.
been toxic or hurt me. Maybe I will forgive, but I'm still leery. I'm still protecting myself.
And does forgiveness truly mean you saying to them, I forgive you? Or can forgiveness also be just your way of moving forward and not letting them take up space? You know, what is the act of forgiveness really?
And the first thing Barbara says, one thing forgiving is not, it's not forgetting.
Right.
That doesn't mean, because it happened, you can't forget it, but you can forgive it and let it go.
You can't take a Harry Potter wand and wrap it around your head and make it all go away and disappear, right?
History is there.
Yes.
It's there.
Jenny.
I did a hard thing this summer. I have a person in my life who resents me and is jealous and just lots of things. And we have to be in each other's lives. And she sent me a text that was bad. And I thought, I need to stand up for myself. But I waited. And I talked it over to a friend who's a counselor. And I said, do you help me process this? How do I respond? Because what she was saying wasn't true and was eating her up. And what the text I sent back, and I felt like I was swallowing, but I said, I was frustrated when I responded to you. I'll try to think a little, wait a little longer before I push the send button. And that just, she went on and on and on. It just came out of her. She said, I will too. She's still, that hasn't changed how she's feeling. But the thing is, it does work.
Yeah.
And this, do you forget or forgive or blah, blah, blah. The times I have forgiven, it just happened. And it was gone. And it wasn't that I couldn't remember the deed, it's that all the energy and the feeling was gone about it.
Yeah.
And I asked for it. I just sat and asked for help. It isn't always like that, but those times it has, that's what happened. So I went about forgetting, it's the energy around that, the belonging to each other was okay.
Right.
And that's to me living in faith, that we ask to be for help. We don't ask how it's going to look, but we ask for help. And it just goes away. And it isn't like I was denying it or holding on to it. It wasn't anything I was doing. I just got out of the way. It does help. I also really I remember this Snoopy cartoon. Snoopy's laying on his doghouse, and Lucy comes up, and she's giving him hack and going on, and Snoopy looks down and he kisses her on the nose. And the final caption was, "A kiss on the nose turns aside anger." And how many times have something unexpected, you've heard somebody say something unexpected, and you went, I wish I could have done that. You know, wow, that was nice.
Isn't that disarming too when you react in kindness? It is disarming to the other person and to you a little bit.
Whenever you're finished, I didn't mean to interrupt. I want to speak to what Jane said, because when people hurt you and do things to you, do you have to keep them in your life? I heard that in your voice.
I'm related to a couple of them.
and so am I. Dennis has,
And I know who they are.
and Dennis's mother has a cousin, a nephew of mine, that holds views that this church would know. You know, he holds views about gays, he holds views about militia, which he did belong to. You get the picture. This is what he thinks and feels.
And he's the only one that's right. All the rest of us are wrong. Correct.
To some extent. And my problem is always when he calls me. I love him. I have loved him since he was a boy. But I don't like what he is. That's a fact. I don't like what he is. And I can have these conversations with him and love him. And then every now and then I think about who he really is. And then I have to readjust. I do this because of a Native American teaching that Rainbow teaches. He says the bear has a certain nature. The bear is not bad because that's his nature. But you have to be wise enough to know the bear's nature and stay out of the bear's way. So you do not have to keep these people in your life that are hurting you. You can kind of put them, stay out of their way, and that's okay. Does that make any sense?
It makes lots of sense. Both you and Jenny have made lots of sense. Thank you.
It's not easy.
No.
It's not easy at the... Oh, go ahead, Pat.
I just wanted to have a little different incident happen. About 5 years ago, a woman who I barely knew, I just knew her in passing, sent me a letter which was extremely nasty and very, very accusing of a lot of strange things, which would have hurt my whole family. It didn't just affect me, it would have hurt my whole family. And I debated about it for a while. And my sister, my oldest sister, who's now passed away, she and I always shared problems, and I shared it with her. I let her read it, and she said, "Oh my, what are you going to do with this?" She said, that would be terrible if it got into the family. And I said, "Thank you, that's what I thought too." I said, "I'm burning it," and I did. I never responded to her, never let on like I ever received it. When I was in the hospital having surgery and in rehab for my leg, she just sent me all kinds of things, a beautiful basket of flowers, a big basket of cookies, and all kinds of goodies in it, cards. And
Wow.
I sent her a note back to thank her. I don't know if it wore on her that, that she said this and now I was going to respond and, she do? I don't know. But I just decided to do nothing. Because none of it was true, what she wrote. And I just heard it.
And sometimes when I think most of the time when we don't respond to something like that, we're not rewarding their behavior.
Right.
Sometimes when you respond, you're rewarding them.
And you're getting into an argument or a fight with them, which is what they want, apparently.
Right.
You know, they want to cause a commotion and upheaval. How is it going to do that? I'm not good at fighting.
I'm not good at fighting either. So think of this. So we've been talking about this on the family level and the friendship level, but can't all of these principles that we're discussing be used on the community level, on a national level, international level? Can't these concepts of giving a kiss on the nose be used to disarm and bring more harmony to this world?
I have one more thing to say. I didn't maybe express where I wanted to go with that. Is he wants and needs my love, and my quandary always is, do I withhold it because of who he is and what he does and what he believes? And always in the end, my response is I have to give my love, regardless of who he is.
Thank you. So I'd like us to think about this in the coming week. As I often ask you to do, just take a few moments every day and think of people in your own life or in the world around you that you can remind yourself from time to time that we do belong to each other, and that it is incumbent upon us to then care for one another, but also to recognize that we must care for ourselves too. And may we be at peace with whatever decision we then make. Amen? Oh, Connie, go ahead.
I was just thinking on Bonnie's birthday, on the prelude, the music of your love on the bottom, it says, though I fail you, God, most every day, you forgive and understand. And then I hear the music of your love.
Says it all, doesn't it?
That says it all. In other words, yes, he would give, she would give all their love. And I'm sure we do hateful things all the time. But the love is still there. So I guess we're supposed to do the same thing.
We are supposed to do the same thing. So let's go forth in love, shall we? Amen.